Welcome to the Explainer. Now, if you're gearing up for part 2 of the CMA exam, you've probably spent, countless hours memorizing formulas for liquidity, profitability, activity ratios, the whole shebang. But today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to shift gears. We're going to stop just calculating those formulas and start critically analyzing them, kind of like a financial detective. Because, let's be real, passing this exam isn't just about crunching the numbers, it's about understanding the story behind them, and perhaps, more importantly, knowing exactly when those numbers might be lying to you. So here is the core thesis of our explainer today. Ratio analysis is an absolutely incredible tool, right? But it is fundamentally imperfect. Why? Well, because ratios are built on accounting data, and as any good accountant knows, that data is packed full of estimates, allocations, and, frankly, potential distortions. When you look at a ratio, you aren't staring at some absolute truth. You're looking at a metric built entirely on assumptions. If those underlying assumptions are flawed, or worse, manipulated, then your ratio analysis is going to be flawed too. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We'll be covering 1. Why ratios are really just clues. 2. Data distortions and manipulation. 3. The comparability problem. 4. External and environmental factors. And finally, number 5. Avoiding those tricky CMA exam traps. Let's get right to it. Section 1. Ratios are only clues. Accounting versus economic reality. As a financial detective, you've got to remember that the inputs for your ratios matter just as much as the outputs. This is a huge fundamental limitation. Think about it. Ratios are built on accounting profit, which only includes explicit costs. The actual out-of-pocket expenses and depreciation recorded in the general ledger. But true economic profit? That's the excess of revenues over explicit and implicit costs, like opportunity costs. Because our standard financial ratios rely strictly on accounting profit, they just completely ignore the implicit costs of doing business. So right out of the gate, you are automatically getting an incomplete picture of a company's true economic health. Moving on to Section 2, data distortions and manipulation, when management intervenes. Studies consistently show a really strong relationship between accounting data and stock prices. In fact, it's pretty wild. A public company's stock price tends to just keep moving upward or downward for months after an earnings announcement, all based on whether that initial report was favorable or unfavorable. And because of this massive delayed effect, management has a huge, and I mean huge, incentive to manipulate the underlying accounting data to make sure those results look as good as humanly possible. This brings us to a classic exam scenario, window dressing. Let's walk through a little mini narrative here. Imagine a company whose current ratio is sitting just above 1.0, let's say 1.2. The manager knows investors really want to see a stronger liquidity position. So what do? Well, on the very last day of the year, they use cash to pay off a chunk of current liabilities. Now, because the ratio is already greater than 1.0, mathematically, reducing both the numerator and the denominator by the exact same amount actually pushes the ratio higher. The business hasn't fundamentally improved its long-term liquidity at all, but they've artificially dressed up the balance sheet literally just in time for that year-end snapshot. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept of earnings quality. Basically, earnings quality measures how useful reported earnings actually are as a true performance indicator. If a company has wildly varying earnings from year to year, meaning low earnings quality, looking at just a single year's ratios is essentially meaningless if you're trying to predict long-term success. On the flip side, high earnings quality means a predictably stable pattern of earnings, and that is the optimal source of funds for paying long-term debt and future dividends. Bottom line, if management is constantly tweaking the numbers, earnings quality plummets. All right, Section 3, the comparability problem. Apples, oranges, and conglomerates. Ratios are practically useless unless they're compared against a standard, like an industry average. But blindly comparing ratios between different companies? That is incredibly dangerous. It's fairly straightforward to compare a focused, single industry firm against industry averages. But what happens when you try to evaluate a conglomerate, one of those massive firms operating across a wide variety of industries? It becomes practically impossible. You just can't compare them cleanly. Why? Because of major size differentials, varying costs of capital, completely different economies of scale, and the sheer width of their markets. Generalizations that apply perfectly to one industry simply don't map neatly onto a massive conglomerate. And get this, even if you're comparing two firms in the exact same industry, you still face 4 major comparability hurdles. First up, differing accounting policies. If firm A uses declining balance depreciation, they're writing down assets earlier, right?
That completely changes their earnings profile compared to firm B, who might be using straight-line depreciation. Second, a firm might actually change its own policies over time, which totally distorts historical analysis. Third, having different fiscal year ends means you are literally looking at different economic periods. And fourth, you always have to check if the data is presented before or after taxes. If you miss any of these, your comparison is basically invalid.
Section 4. External and environmental factors, inflation, seasonality, and geography. Now we have to look at how outside environmental forces can completely distort perfectly accurate math. I actually want to pose this question directly to you. Put on your CMA candidate thinking cap for a second. If you are analyzing a highly seasonal business, say a retail company that does 80% of its sales in December, what happens if you calculate your inventory turnover using a simple average of the inventory balances just at the very beginning and the very end of the year? Well, the answer is that your analysis will be completely distorted. Those year-end balances completely fail to represent the actual seasonal averages for the period. If you just take January 1st and December 31st, you're missing all the massive fluctuations that happened in, say, July or October. To get a true picture of activity ratios for seasonal business, you absolutely must use monthly averages instead. Now, what's really interesting is how inflation secretly distorts ratios. Since many assets are recorded at historical cost, inflation makes the balance sheet basically ignore current fair value. Plus, the interest rate hikes that usually tag along with inflation, they actually decrease the value of outstanding long-term debt. And here is an absolutely crucial detail for your studies. During a period of inflation, a company using LIFO, that's last in, first out, actually has higher earnings quality than a company using FIFO. Why? Because LIFO matches the most recent inflated costs against current revenues, which gives you a way more accurate picture of current economic reality. Finally, don't forget geography. A company operating in Europe versus one in Southeast Asia will have entirely different labor markets, entirely different price levels, not to mention governmental regulations and tax structures. These geographic differences introduce a whole host of new variables that can destroy a clean one-to-one ratio comparison. And that's true even if the two companies are selling the exact same product. All right, Section 5, Avoiding CMA Exam Traps, Passing Part 2. So, we've arrived at the climax of our explainer. It's time to bring all these limitations, from window dressing to inflation to comparability, right back to what you'll actually face on test day. So, the crucial point is this. The exam will actively test your ability to spot the difference between real economic improvement and mere accounting presentation effects. When a multiple-choice question shows a sudden improvement in a company's accounts receivable turnover, or maybe their current ratio, you have to stop and ask yourself, is this real economic improvement, like better credit collection practices? Or is it just an accounting presentation effect, like management paying off a liability on New Year's Eve just to artificially bump the ratio? The exam writers want to know if you can spot the illusion. I want to leave you with this final, really important thought as you hit the books. Treat ratios as clues, not final proof. Ratios are excellent, literally excellent, for pointing out where you need to look a little closer. But as a future CMA, your job isn't just to calculate a number. It's to investigate the story behind it, catch the distortions, and discover the actual economic truth. So keep that detective mindset sharp. The next time you see a perfectly improved current ratio, you have to ask yourself, what reality is this number hiding? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.